Fine, so these are the tools that we are going to learn today. In the second session we will install all those tools. As you can see on your screen, I shared this PDF for Windows, Mac OS as well as Kali Linux. So we are going to make use of a VirtualBox environment where we will learn about all of these tools, mostly all of these tools. We'll see how these tools are being used in the industry, how they are actually used against a particular victim or a particular target. We'll think from a black hat point of view, black hat hacker's point of view, but whatever we will learn today, we will use it ethically. Fine, so these are the tools that we are going to install in our second session, both for Windows as well as for Mac. So that is going to be the agenda for session number 2. And finally, the third session for the day is where the actual hacking will begin. That is, we are going to start with the vulnerability assessment first using different tools, followed by the penetration testing. That is how actually a penetration test happens on a real world environment or a sandbox environment. The techniques will be same, only the destination or the target will change. So day 3 is going to be basics of web application security. So whatever we will learn in day 1, we'll implement or we will apply that on web applications. So we'll see what is OWASP, what is OWASP top 10, and we'll start with exploiting some vulnerabilities present in a web application. We will start with SQL injection, then we will see what is cross-site scripting, cross-site request forgery, then we'll see what is broken authentication. Then we will see something called as file upload vulnerability, where you must have used many applications where you need to upload some files in the form of PDF, images, something like that, right? So if there is any vulnerability present in that web application or that web server where the files being uploaded may also carry some sort of scripts inside it, so what will happen? We'll see that over here in this particular session. Then we will see something called as command injection, and we will explore some more tools if time permits. What exactly happens is, before starting any ethical hacking process, we need to keep in mind that there are certain phases which we'll have to consider. Okay, so what are those phases? So the very first step is reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is basically gathering information about a target. So aisa nahi hai ki you can just start your ethical hacking straight away. You should have proper information about your target before you actually launch your attack, right? So I would say that 80 to 90% of the efforts should be put in step number 1, reconnaissance, because the data that you are gathering is going to be the king. Whatever target you have finalized, you should gather as much information, as much data about that target, so that your further phases might become easier. You will be in a better position to launch the attacks properly. After the reconnaissance phase is done, you try to find out the various vulnerabilities that might be present on your target. So that is what we call as scanning phase. So once reconnaissance is done, you lock your target, you start your scanning attacks, you start your information gathering on your target. That is what we call as phase number 2, scanning. And once we have an ample amount of information about the target, once we know that so and so target is vulnerable to so and so kind of an attack, we will then launch the attack to gain access of that target. That is what step number 3 is all about, gaining access. Once you gain access, you should have a mechanism to continue gaining that access, or continue keeping that access, or maintaining that access. It's not like कि आपने एक बार attack कर दिया and that's it, done. No. Once you launch the attack, you should also have the capability to stay on your server, stay on that victim's machine as long as you want, so that ample amount of information could be captured from that victim. I'm talking from a black hat's point of view, because ultimately black hat and white hat will do the same task, but their intent is different, as I've already mentioned. Once that is done, once you have maintained access, you have captured all the critical information from that victim's machine, the most crucial phase is covering your tracks. Covering your tracks means you delete all the evidences that you might have left accidentally on your target's machine. By doing this, what happens is, if you want to launch the attack again in the future, you will still be able to launch the attack without getting identified or without getting noticed. That is what we call as covering tracks. And one more thing is, we can think of having some backdoor set up on that victim's machine. A backdoor kind of thing you can launch, and you can plant the backdoor entry on that victim's machine. Some port numbers or some ports which you might keep open, which might get unnoticed by the victim, but you know about that port, you have kept that port open so that you can launch the attack again in the future without getting noticed. So this is nothing but covering tracks.